Well, thank you so much. Now I'm switching to English. Thank you for starting to share your experiences in the area of sustainability. And I will start with Anna. Because I want to start with the hardware of the hospitality, the design of new hotels, of new resorts. Do you see a trend coming of asking you and demanding a better design linked to sustainability?
Absolutely. I think this is not working, right? Can you hear me well? Yes. Or no? Okay, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe that sustainability is going to be a priority. Definitely the COVID lockdown has raised the stakes on healthy buildings and the importance of really getting rid of all these sick buildings that have evidence to not only affect our physical and mental health, but also our cognitive behavior, which affects productivity, performance, concentration. So all this shift, there's definitely a shift in consciousness, and this mental crisis have raised the demand on sustainable strategies and design. And we're not only seeing, like, in Caribbean mostly, we're not seeing just clients that request for sustainability, green strategies, but fully integrated sustainable communities that have wellness at the core of the business. So we're seeing medical wellness resorts with permaculture, biodynamic, sustainable farm-to-table experiences. So it's becoming really big in the Caribbean, and in LATAM, on the contrary, we've seen that the sustainability is still a strategic pillar of many of the operators that we work with. But since Latin America had a lot of issues with economic crisis, with the pandemic, so many of the owners have been trying to stay afloat. So sustainability practices have seemed to be more postponed. But we've seen many savvy owners getting ready and taking this as an opportunity to do better for whenever the economy recovers. So I have to answer this question from the healthy perspective, just because we've seen how the pandemic has showed us that there's a strong link and connection between climate health and human health. So last year, I was at the Global Wellness Summit, and there was a phrase that really stuck to me, and it's, why live 100 years if we have a planet that cannot sustain life, that is so damaged that cannot sustain life? So we definitely have to do something now, take action for future generations. And it's not about how do we reduce the impact on the environment, it's how can we regenerate the environment, how we can restore ecosystems, and that supports human and planetary health. And on the other hand, I also have a very good note that I recently saw that Mexico and Brazil actually enter into the list of the top list of certified buildings. And for me, that was a great news. It only tells us that sustainability will continue to be the priority in our region.
Thank you, Anna. And maybe now moving more to the software part of it, in a way. I just mentioned that adaptation is in our DNA. Emilio, what do you see happening in the sector in terms of the operations of are we adopting circular economy? Are we doing other issues that have to do more with how we operate?
Sure. I mean, we've heard a lot about resiliency. We've heard a lot about reconstructing. And there's one word that we have not heard about much, is adaptability. And you hit it on the nail today, because we have to adapt. And I could not agree with you more that today is the day. In fact, it was yesterday, really. But today is the day. We cannot wait. I was talking to Ricardo just a minute ago before we came up that at first I wasn't sure if being here today was appropriate, coming from the largest hospitality company in the world. However, it's important to mention that we're taking sustainability very, very seriously, more than ever today. And in fact, we've been talking about how our global partners within our organization have taken a very close, very deep look into sustainability and adaptability coming from where we have been in the last 24 months. I think if one thing we have learned from this experience, from this moment in our lifetime, is to be adaptable. And each one of us, I mean, just let's face it, none of us left home for a while, right? So that was a personal decision we made in order for us to be better neighbors, to not bring this virus to other people, to bring it to our older parents or grandparents. And effectively, by doing that, we were also taking care of our community. But at the same time, where we were doing that, we also taking care of our region globally. So more than ever, we are interconnected, more than ever before, because of this situation. So this is the moment in which we could take those big powerhouses, like the Marriotts, like the Hiltons, like the Hyatts, and come together and create this very important move. Because once again, we don't have yesterday. It's gone already.
Thank you, Emilio. That's very hopeful to know that the big brands can be a game changer. We were talking about it over lunch, and what's the key to increase adaptation? I was just saying, and he was mentioning, oh yeah, it could be through the brands, and you just said exactly the same thing. Work with the brands; they can pilot it, maybe. I mean, it's not the only way, but we need to do a partnership to include adaptation as well. Ricardo, I glanced over very quickly on the climate opportunities so I can show that it's not only something negative, but there is a business case here. Can you explore more this idea of the opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know of the potential cost savings. We all know of the reputational brand awareness aspects that can come from some of the things that we're talking about here. But I wanted to touch upon some of the points that you had during your presentation about that we're actually seeing in practice. We're seeing a lot of interest on, sorry, my microphone is not the best, but we're seeing a lot of interest in extending lifetimes of assets due to and trying to understand how you can push forward this moment where an asset's emissions actually exceed the Paris targets, and we're seeing that on projects. We're also seeing a lot of interest in green loans and more favorable financing for efficient projects. And finally, climate change adaptation and risks. So investors are really interested in knowing why a property, what the risks are associated with a property, and before they actually move on to make an investment. So those are actually opportunities that there are out there that are really more related to the financing aspect of it.
Jesus, we were discussing before the panel, and you knew I was going to talk about investors, clients, and employees. But what was your take on where we should be going? Is sustainability an add-on or something that we need to think from the beginning?
Well, sustainability is like when you build a hotel, you don't question, whether you're going to put a bed on the room or not. A bed goes in the room, so it has to be from the get-go. Sustainability has to be part of the core of whatever you design and whatever you operate on how you operate. I think it cannot be something that is nice to have. I think consumers, we see it today, consumers demand sustainability. Some of them may not want to pay for that, but they expect it, the same thing they expect running water in a hotel, in a bathroom. Then there is this element too that we are seeing more clearly today. to attract talent, you need to have something that is attractive. Your company has to stand for something. And just bringing the right people is going to have major advantages. Retaining talent sometimes is costly, for companies. So I think if you have ingrained in your business model sustainability, the potential and the economic impact long term is tremendous. I think one of the challenges, and we were talking about it earlier, is one of the challenges when you embark on a sustainable project or model is you don't see a result from one day to the next. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we are so short term. We look at the P&Ls. I'm not making money. We look at the cash flow. Where can I cut? And I think today there is no time to really look at short term, but we need to look at long term. And the reason being is because if we built a hotel, we wouldn't necessarily light a match and burn it down. We want to preserve the asset. And I think what's happening in our world, we need to take care of our world. And for that, it's not short term. Mm-hmm. Strategy, it's a long term. I think we need to take care of our environment, but in order for us to take care of our environment, we need to take care of our people, because the two things are hand in hand. There is no green without social, and that's essential.
And in some conversations with clients, when we propose to do a certification or to do an energy efficiency audit to reduce their cost, we're seeing it as an opportunity, but then they always come down to about how much is it going to cost the certification? Is it worth it? Will I have more clients in the future if I have it? What's your idea in terms of projections? How do you respond to the extra cost today, but that will have benefit in the future?
Yeah, definitely, I would like to start seeing more sustainability strategies, more to be seen as not to reduce costs, but how can we generate more money, right, as a revenue generator. And I think the opportunity that we have right now, it's in innovation, and maybe the companies that are doing it right be able to share the data, because the data is what's not fully available, so owners and developers do not have the resources, do not have that data that really supports the financial pro forma that they're doing. So I think if all the hotel operators just start using one, I think it's called the GSTC or something, that really you can have all the data there and try to innovate as much as possible so that we can encourage operators and our clients to really take a stand, right? And also clients need to care, because they know it's going to cost, on the forefront, it's going to cost money, but if you care, it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost, because on the long run, you're going to offset it. So I think there's great opportunities for us as designers right now. Innovation is big. I would like to see the conversation in how also we can transform brown buildings into greener buildings, right? So for me, the future is regenerative design and building decarbonization, which you already mentioned, but also that education and that sharing of data so that we can encourage our clients.
Yeah, I think that the retrofitting is a very important process also for adaptation, because we always focus on mitigation, but there is retrofitting also for infrastructure to make it more resilient. But of course, sometimes it's costly. Emilio, what do you see in terms of the trends towards the future? Do you see this being adopted more and more?
I hope so. Because as we said earlier, I don't think we have much time to not do it. It's a matter of a mindset switch that we have to have. I believe education has been there for years, actually for decades. I remember you and I were talking, Ricardo and I were talking about when U.S. Green Building Council was being formed in Washington, D.C., almost 30 years ago. Yeah. I happened to be there with a good friend, David Greenfield, and still today we're talking about it. It's been 3 decades. I was 12, by the way. It's been three decades, okay? And we're still talking about it. So yes, there is adaptability that has to happen. We have to continue educating our investors, our owners, and so forth. But there's data out there, and unfortunately I don't have it with me, but there's data that shows that even after investment on green sustainability solutions, there is better returns. As I said, I don't have it and I cannot speak to it, but there is proven record of this. So it's just a matter of taking time. I take it back to the pandemic. I mean, we all were told to stay put and do nothing. Unlike Arturo, I kept cutting my hair, right? I did. However,
You're going to grow it back
however,
when it's done, right?
I was going to say I'm going to grow it when all of this happens, because all kidding aside, and I have friends that I have lost to this terrible, unprecedented pandemic. But again, all kidding aside, this is serious, and a lot of us are not taking it that way.
Yeah, I think that the people that are living through wildfires or heat waves, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing about climate change is that we see a lot of these impacts that I was mentioning before in developing countries. The countries that do not have the adaptability, the resources, the financial resources to respond to a heat wave or to a crisis like this.
If I may add also, one of the difficult things about climate change is the time lag between what we're doing now and what we're going to see in the future. And similarly to hotel developments or hospitality developments, they take years and years.
Yeah.
And we're actually designing and building our properties that we're hoping to operate for decades to come. Yeah. The reality is that they might not be ready for this future. And I think this risk, we as an industry haven't really been able to grasp, whereas I actually see investors starting to think about that because they naturally think longer term. If you look at BlackRock that just announced that they're dropping all of their, greenhouse gas heavy assets and only investing in sustainable assets. So I think there are voices out there that are starting to come out, and we need to very quickly understand that that's a risk issue as much as an issue of looking after our planet.
Yeah, and I think that the issue of the climate risk being integrated as part of also the financial understanding of a project is critical, and disclosure will come more and more into the equation. I mean, the US government as well as the European Union is already requesting more and more disclosure, not only of the greenhouse gas emission plans reductions that you may have, but also of the risks. And that may even increase the cost of capital if you didn't do anything beforehand.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's the way to start.
And you'll end up, as you very rightly showed in your presentation, with stranded assets. And that is the last thing that we want from our projects.
Jesus, what do you see to the future? You said that doing a sustainability project from the start takes longer. What would be the suggestion for anyone that is thinking about or looking for financing for a project, to go back to the drawing board, or can we actually start from where we are? And maybe tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that you said before to me was you have to be ready to be patient. You have to be patient to see results.
No, I think I may have misspoken earlier. I don't think it just takes longer if you start something from zero. I think it just takes long to see the results. Yeah. Okay, I think that's the issue. You don't see immediate impact. It's like switching a light. You switch the light, it's on or off. When you implement a sustainable plan or a sustainability plan, it just takes time to see whatever matrix you are trying to measure. It's not immediate. And I think we are very driven by short-term results. All of us as business people and investors. So I think the important thing here, and I don't like about trends, talking about trends. I hate the word trends because it's something that is in today and out tomorrow. Okay, but what I'm seeing a lot is from the capital market, from the investor side, there is a lot more scrutiny. They want to know what your pro forma is going to look like, but they want to know what your key performance indicators, non-financial related, are in terms of, employee engagement, customer satisfaction, environmental impact, use of energy sources, et cetera. I think, there is a big shift now that I'm seeing where investors, okay, it's fine, let's show me your IRR, but I want to see all these other elements in terms of social and environmental impact. That's important. And the other thing, and with this I'll close, that is what's happening is beautiful. Okay, I know it's scary, everybody talks and everybody expects somebody else to fix it, but the beauty of it is 5 years ago, nobody was talking about this. I remember, in several places being introduced as a tree hugger, and people were like, wait a minute. And I was just recently introduced to a group of investors as a tree hugger. So in a short time, there was a big shift. I think everybody now understands that we have to come together to tackle one of the greatest challenges that we have as a generation. And I think, if we all come together and understand that it's going to take time, but we need to have a plan. And I think, you mentioned earlier, it's not about waiting for somebody else to do it. We just have to tackle it now.
We have to take action, for sure.
So the tree huggers here,
Probably.
I don't know, I think that we could be talking about this for a long time, but we ran out of time. But I know there is a session tomorrow that Anna will moderate or co-moderate that will go into depth into some of the options on the sustainability journey that we all have to do. And it's important that I mention journey because sometimes we see that people do not want to start because they don't know how, and they don't want to start if they don't know exactly how. Well, it's a journey. We're all learning. We all have learned in our work. But we're here to support you in that journey, and hopefully we'll come back again and continue being more and more people as tree huggers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.